The stars outside Elias Vorn's cockpit were cold and silent. His ship, the Warden's Wing, glided through the abandoned edges of Sector 9, a forgotten stretch of space where broken ships drifted like ghosts. Once a major battlefield during the Human-Zarian War. Now it was just wreckage and warnings on every chart. No one came here anymore except scavengers like Elias. Elias was a former Alliance engineer who now lived by salvaging old tech. It wasn't a glamorous life, but it paid enough for fuel and food. He wasn't looking for danger, he avoided trouble. But today something felt different. His ship's scanner beeped suddenly. Unidentified distress signal. Zarian frequency. Origin 3.7 clicks north. He leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. A Zarian signal? Out here? Elias whispered. He should have ignored it. He should have logged it and kept flying. But something pulled him toward it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the silence of the voice. Like someone was calling for help, but had no strength left. He adjusted the thrusters and flew toward the signal. The wreck came into view minutes later, a small, sleek Zarian fighter, half buried in the ice-covered surface of a dead asteroid. Its wings were shattered. Black smoke drifted from the engine vents. The hull was scorched, but the cockpit looked sealed. Elias hovered close and activated his magnetic boots before stepping out onto the asteroid. His breath fogged inside his helmet as he approached the downed craft. The Zarian symbols on the side were faded but still visible. He couldn't read them, but he knew enough to recognize this was no ordinary fighter. This one was elite. He climbed to the cockpit and tapped on the glass. No response. He tried the emergency override, but the lock was jammed. With a small cutter, he pried open a side panel and rerouted the power. After a minute of sparks and resistance, the cockpit hissed open. Smoke and cold air rushed out. Inside was a motionless figure, tall, armored in smooth silver-black plating, with blue blood trailing from a cut near her helmet. Elias froze. This wasn't just a Zarian pilot. This was one of them. The feared Dominion warriors known as Stormblades, trained from birth. Merciless, deadly, and she was still alive. Her fingers twitched. Her chest rose and fell, barely. Her voice came out in a whisper through her damaged helmet. Air. Running out. Elias's mind raced. He had two choices. Leave her and stay safe, or bring her aboard and risk everything. He looked around. There were no signs of other ships nearby. No enemies. No backup. You're lucky I'm a fool, he muttered, then reached into the cockpit and pulled her out. Inside the Warden's Wing, Elias laid the armored alien on the medbay table. The moment his ship's AI scanned her biology, a red alert lit up. Warning, Zarian lifeform detected. Risk level, high. He silenced the warning and leaned over her. Her breathing was shallow. The armor hissed as it tried to repair itself, but it was failing. She coughed inside the helmet. Armor, suffocating me, she gasped, her voice cracked and soft. Elias hesitated. You want me to remove it? Her head barely nodded. He knew what this meant. Removing a Zarian warrior's armor was like stripping their soul. It was sacred, bonded to them through ritual, but she was dying, and Elias wasn't a soldier anymore. He was just a man trying to do what was right. All right, he said. Don't die on me. He reached for the emergency release nodes across her chest and arms. The armor's surface buzzed, resisting. It wasn't just protective, it was alive in its own way. But Elias had dealt with advanced tech before. Carefully, he bypassed the seal codes and unlocked the shoulder clamps. Steam hissed. The chest plate loosened. One by one, he removed the pieces. The shoulder guards, the forearm shells, the leg plates, and finally, her helmet. When the helmet came off, Elias took a step back. He had expected something terrifying. A beast. A cold, sharp-featured alien, but instead she was different. Her skin was a soft violet tone, scarred near the cheek but smooth. Her hair, long and silver, was tangled and damp from sweat. Her face was not monstrous. It was strong. Sharp eyes closed now in pain, long lashes trembling as she breathed deeper without the helmet. Elias found himself staring, not because of beauty, but because she looked human. She gasped sharply, her chest rising with air. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. He blinked, snapped out of the moment. "Don't thank me yet," he said, covering her with a heat blanket. "You're still on the edge." The ship's systems began stabilizing her condition. Her breathing slowed to normal. Her pulse evened out. Elias sat back in the chair beside the bed. "Well," he muttered, glancing at the strange, now unarmored warrior. "This day just got a lot more complicated." The hum of the ship's engines echoed softly in the med bay, mixing with the steady rhythm of the oxygen machine. Elias Vorn sat in the chair beside the bed, arms crossed, watching the alien woman slowly regain consciousness. Her breathing had evened out, but her body was still weak. The silver strands of her hair lay across her face, and her skin, once covered in armor, was now pale and marked with faint bruises. She shifted slightly, eyelids fluttering open. For a moment she stared at the ceiling in confusion. Then her eyes moved, locking onto Elias. Not with fear, not with hate, just confusion. Elias raised both hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Easy. You're safe here," he said calmly. "I found your ship in the debris field. You were trapped inside, no oxygen left." Her gaze dropped to the blanket covering her. She could feel the absence of her armor. Her fingers twitched as if reaching for something that wasn't there. "I had to remove it," Elias added gently. "You were choking inside that thing." The woman tried to sit up but winced in pain. Her body still hadn't recovered. "You touched my armor," she said softly, her voice low and rough. "I saved your life," he replied. "Wasn't exactly part of my to-do list today, but you were dying." She stared at him for a long moment. Her purple eyes were sharp and clear now. "You're human." "Last I checked, yeah." She leaned back, resting her head again. "My people, they would kill you for what you've done." Elias gave a short laugh. "Good thing your people aren't here." The room fell into silence. Outside the medbay window, a broken asteroid drifted slowly past the stars. Time felt slower in space, especially when two enemies found themselves in a quiet room without weapons, war, or orders. "What's your name?" Elias asked after a while. She hesitated. "Thalia." He nodded. "Elias." Another silence followed, but this one wasn't cold. Thalia closed her eyes, breathing steadily. Then she spoke, surprising him. "I was shot down by my own fleet." Elias raised an eyebrow. "That's unexpected." "I refused an order. Civilians. They wanted them eliminated. I didn't agree." He leaned back, looking at her with new eyes. "That explains why there wasn't a rescue team." "They will say I'm a traitor," she whispered. "They may already have." Elias shook his head, running a hand through his short brown hair. "War's a mess. I've seen it from both ends. You try to follow orders, then you look in the mirror one day and don't recognize yourself anymore." Thalia looked at him again. "You were a soldier?" "Engineer. Fixing broken ships during the worst years. Saw more blood than I ever wanted. Got out before it broke me completely." She didn't reply, but her expression softened slightly. After a while, Elias stood up and poured a glass of water, walking it over to her. She looked at it like it was something foreign. "You can drink, right?" he asked. She took it carefully, sipping slowly. Her hands still trembled. "I don't understand you," she said quietly. "You could have left me. You should have." Elias sat back down. "Yeah, well, maybe I'm just bad at being heartless." Her eyes studied him. "You risked your life for an enemy." He shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe I saw someone who needed help. Doesn't matter what side you're on when you can't breathe." Thalia set the glass down gently. "My armor. It was part of me. Without it, I feel exposed." I figured. But you were suffocating. I didn't have a choice. She nodded slowly. I know. They sat quietly again. The silence not uncomfortable this time. It was something else, fragile but honest. Elias leaned back, his voice softer now. You look different than I expected. How so? I don't know. We were told Zarians were all monsters, cold, inhuman, but you're not. Thalia's expression didn't change, but her eyes flickered with emotion. Not all humans are what I was told either, she said. Just then, a soft alarm beeped on Elias's console. He checked it quickly. A faint signal, Zarian, distant, but too weak to be a ship. A leftover beacon, maybe. Still, it reminded him they weren't completely safe out here. I'll keep us hidden for now, he muttered. You're not strong enough to move. Rest. We'll figure this out when you're better. Thalia closed her eyes. You should. Be careful, Elias. I'm always careful, he replied, half smiling. Just not smart. She smiled faintly, barely visible, but it was there. As Elias dimmed the lights and left the medbay, he realized something strange. He didn't feel like he had rescued an enemy. He felt like he had pulled a person from the edge, someone who didn't want to be a killer anymore. And deep down, he knew her story wasn't over yet. 2 days passed quietly inside the Warden's wing. Outside the ship, Sector 9 remained cold and silent, filled only with the drifting remains of old battles. Inside, something unexpected was happening. A wounded alien warrior and a quiet human were slowly learning to exist under the same roof. Elias kept himself busy repairing a damaged energy coil near the engine room, glancing at the screen from time to time to check on the medbay. Thalia hadn't left her bed much. Her injuries were healing faster than a human's would, but her body was still weak. Her armor remained locked in a storage room, untouched. Later that evening, she finally walked into the control room, slowly and carefully. Elias looked up. You're up. Thought you were going to sleep for another day. I needed to move, she replied. My legs were stiff. He offered her a seat and she sat down slowly, eyes scanning the interior of the ship. Not very fancy, Elias said, trying to lighten the mood. But she keeps flying. Thalia nodded. It's efficient. Human ships are simpler, less focused on honor, and more on survival. Elias chuckled. We like living, that's true. She looked at him, silent for a moment. Then she asked, Why are you here? Alone in a dead war zone? Elias leaned back, folding his arms. Same reason you were flying alone, I guess. Running from something. Thalia tilted her head slightly, curious. I was an engineer during the war, Elias continued. Kept ships running. Fixed the ones that were shot to pieces. Saw too many people die, and for what? Territory? Pride? I got tired. So I took my ship, left the big cities behind, and started salvaging wrecks. Less death, more peace. You still save people, she said softly. He glanced at her, then shrugged. Sometimes, when they're not trying to shoot me. Thalia's fingers traced the edge of the console. You asked me before, why my own fleet shot me down. Elias nodded. You said it was because you refused an order. She sighed and looked at the dark screen in front of her, eyes distant. The command was simple. A group of human miners was hiding in a neutral zone. They were unarmed. They had children. My superior told me to erase them. Send a message. Elias's face grew still. I refused, she continued. Said I would not kill innocents. Said I was a warrior, not a butcher. They branded me a traitor within hours. Elias didn't speak right away. He just looked at her, trying to understand the weight she carried. You did the right thing, he said finally. I broke everything I was taught to believe, she whispered. I trained for combat since I could walk. I lived in armor. I believed in victory, in strength, but something changed when I saw those people. They reminded me of a dream I had once when I was very young. A quiet place, a family, peace. It didn't match the war they forced me into. That dream sounds a lot like Earth, Elias said, with a small smile. Thalia looked at him. Earth. Is it like that? Parts of it. Still has its problems, but yeah, there are quiet places, families, people who grow food instead of firing weapons. Thalia lowered her head. I've never seen such a place. Maybe you still can, Elias said quietly. They sat in silence for a while. The room was dim, lit only by the gentle glow of the console lights. Elias finally stood and poured 2 small cups of warm synth tea from a dispenser. He handed one to Thalia, who looked at it carefully before sipping. It tastes strange, she said with a slight frown. It always does, Elias replied. But it helps when you're thinking too much. She smiled, just a little. Then her tone changed. You're hiding me. That's dangerous. I know. If a patrol finds me here, they will see you as a traitor too. Let them, Elias said. I'd rather be called a traitor than let someone get killed for doing the right thing. Thalia looked down at her cup, gripping it tightly. You shouldn't risk your life for me. I'm still a Zarian. No, Elias said gently. You're someone who's trying to change. A long pause followed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Without my armor, I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. That's not always a bad thing, Elias replied. Sometimes you have to lose the old version of yourself to find the real one. Their eyes met. In that moment, no flags mattered. No war stories, no ranks, no bloodlines. Just 2 souls floating in the same dark sea, both searching for something brighter. And somewhere deep inside her, Thalia knew she had crossed a line she could never return from. Not because she was weak, but because, for the first time, she was free. The hum of the warden's wing echoed softly through the corridors as it drifted between asteroids. The ship was calm, and for once, Elias didn't feel like he was just surviving. There was something peaceful about having someone to talk to again, even if that someone was a former Zarian warrior. Thalia was adjusting fast. Though her body was still weak, her mind was sharp. She had learned how to operate human tech, quicker than Elias expected. She spent hours studying his maps, system files, and news broadcasts. Not for spying, not for war, just learning. She wanted to understand, and Elias didn't mind teaching her. One evening, as he was patching a cracked panel near the cargo hold, the ship's alert rang out. Unknown signal detected. Source, deep space, partial Zarian frequency. He dropped his tools and ran to the cockpit. The screen showed a slow pulsing beacon, faint, distant, but unmistakably military. No, this can't be real, Elias whispered. A soft voice spoke behind him. It's a hunt signal. He turned. Thalia stood in the doorway, wrapped in a ship-issued jacket over her recovered suit. Her expression was serious. Elias pointed at the console. That thing is Zarian? Yes, but old. That frequency was deactivated after the Third Treaty. He frowned. Then why is it here? She stepped forward, studying the signal carefully. It's not a message. It's a trace marker, meant to pull ships in and find survivors. Survivors like you, Elias said slowly. Thalia nodded. They know someone survived the crash. They're scanning Sector 9. He sighed and rubbed his forehead. This ship's too old to outrun a modern cruiser. If they find they'll take me, she finished, and kill you. The silence that followed was heavy. The stars outside seemed to press closer, listening. We need a plan, Elias said finally. Something smart. Thalia's eyes flicked toward the nav screen. There's a debris field near the collapsed moon of Taros. If we hide inside it, shut down everything except life support, they may miss us. You're suggesting we bury ourselves in garbage. I'm suggesting we live, she said firmly. Elias gave a short laugh. Fair enough. 30 minutes later, the engines cooled to near silence as the warden's wing slipped into the shadows of the Taros debris field. Wreckage surrounded them, Broken hulls, drifting satellites, even old escape pods frozen in time. Elias shut down every system except life support and emergency oxygen. Inside the cockpit, only soft red lights remained. Thalia sat beside him, her eyes focused ahead. Her breathing was steady, but Elias could feel the tension in her body. Okay? He asked. She nodded. I've been hunted before, but this time, I'm not alone. That surprised Elias more than he expected. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them. Like they carried weight she didn't know how to release. A soft beep echoed on the scanner. Contact, Elias whispered. Large ship entering the field. They leaned forward. A long, silent shadow passed across the edge of the scanner. Too big to be a fighter, too slow to be random. Zarian cruiser, Thalia said under her breath. They're sweeping the wreckage. Think they'll stop here? She didn't answer. Minutes passed. The cruiser hovered close. Elias could feel the low hum through the floor. Their cloaking wasn't perfect. If the cruiser got too close, its heat sensors would find them. Then a flash on the screen. Scan sweep incoming, Elias muttered. Hold your breath. Thalia suddenly reached over and gripped his hand. It caught him off guard, but he didn't pull away. The seconds ticked by like hours. The sweep passed. No alarms, no pings, just quiet. Then slowly, the cruiser began to move away. Elias exhaled, heart pounding. We made it, he whispered. Thalia slowly released his hand, though her fingers lingered for a second longer than needed. They'll search again, she said quietly, but not today. He nodded. We'll move again soon. But for now, let's take the win. They left the cockpit and returned to the common area. Elias handed her a ration bar. She bit into it slowly, clearly not enjoying the taste. We'll find better food next planet, he said. Thalia gave a small smile. Your people eat strange things. You get used to it. There was a pause. Then she looked up at him. I don't know what my future is now, Elias. I can't go home. I've broken everything my people believed in. He sat across from her. Then maybe it's time to start writing a new story. With you? She asked softly. He didn't answer immediately. Then he looked her in the eyes and said, Only, if you want me there. She didn't reply, but her silence felt like hope. 2 days had passed since the Zarian cruiser came close. Elias had moved the Warden's wing to a new hiding spot near a cold, dead moon. The ship's systems were running. Low power, food, fuel. They couldn't keep hiding forever. Inside the small dining space, Elias sat with a map of nearby systems, his eyes tracing lines between old trade routes and abandoned outposts. Thalia stood near the window, arms crossed, her silver hair tied back in a rough knot. There's a human supply station 2 jumps away, Elias said. Small, quiet, they don't ask questions. I've traded there before. They'll recognize me, Thalia said. They won't. We'll keep you hidden. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared at the stars. Elias, she said softly, why are you still helping me? He looked up. Because you helped those civilians. Because you're not who they say you are. That was once. What if that was just a moment of weakness? Elias shook his head. It wasn't weakness, it was strength. Thalia turned toward him, her eyes serious. You don't know me, not fully. What if the old me comes back? He stood and walked toward her. Then I'll remind you of who you've become. A small silence settled between them. Then the alarm beeped. Incoming signal. Elias ran to the console. It's human. A distress call. He quickly opened the message. A small cargo vessel was under attack by pirates in a nearby sector. Weak shields, minimal weapons, crew on board. They're not far, Elias muttered. Thalia came beside him. We can't risk revealing our position. Elias hesitated. I know. His fingers hovered over the controls. They'll die, he said. If no one helps, they'll die. Thalia's eyes narrowed. So you'll risk everything for strangers? He looked at her. Isn't that what you did? She was quiet for a moment. Then slowly, she nodded. Then let's go, she said. The warden's wing blasted into motion, the ship groaning slightly from the stress of the jump. Elias pushed the engines harder than he liked. Minutes later, they reached the edge of the pirate attack. 3 ships circled the damaged cargo vessel like vultures. Its hull was already cracked, smoke spilling into space. No time to hide, Elias said. We go loud. Thalia moved fast. She slid into the weapons console seat and activated the targeting systems like she'd done it her whole life. You, sure you remember how to use those? Elias asked. She gave a sharp smile. Watch me. They flew straight into the fight. The pirate ships weren't expecting company. As Elias flew low across the cargo vessel, Thalia fired precision shots, hitting. One ship's engine, the other's shield array, the third turned to face them. Incoming fire! Elias shouted, banking hard. The blast rocked the ship, but the shields held. Barely. Thalia kept firing, hitting the third ship's wing. It spun out of control, crashing into a broken satellite. Nice shot, Elias said, impressed. We're not done, she replied. The first 2 pirates were trying to regroup. Elias swung the warden's wing behind them, while Thalia launched an EMP burst that disabled both vessels. The fight was over in seconds. Elias quickly connected with the cargo ship. This is the freighter wing. You're safe now, a tired voice answered. Thank you. We thought we were gone. He cut the link and turned to Thalia. She was breathing hard but calm. You all right? He asked. Yes, she said. It felt right. They didn't wait for thanks. They jumped out before any authorities arrived. Back in quiet space, Elias and Thalia sat in the engine room, sharing water and resting in silence. You didn't hesitate, Elias said. Not even for a second. They were helpless, I knew that feeling. Elias nodded slowly. You're not who you were, Thalia. She looked at him, her voice low. And you made me see that. You didn't see a killer when you removed my armor. You saw someone worth saving. He smiled. I still do. She shifted a little closer. Her voice was steady but softer than before. I don't know what I'm supposed to be now. I'm not Zarian anymore. And I'm not fully free. You're becoming something new, Elias said. That's never easy. She looked down. Will I ever belong anywhere again? Elias gently touched her hand. You already do. Right here. She didn't pull away. Outside the ship, stars passed slowly, but inside something powerful had formed. Something built not from armor or blood, but from quiet moments, hard choices, and trust. And neither of them would ever be the same again. Elias stood at the ship's repair station, checking a fuel line when the communication panel blinked red. Unknown encrypted signal. Zarian origin. His heart froze for a second. He tapped the console carefully, not opening the full message, just scanning the header. The signal wasn't a wide-range scan. It was direct, meant for someone specific, and it was aimed at the warden's wing. He turned quickly and ran toward the navigation bay. Thalia was there going over a star chart. She looked up the moment he stepped in. What is it? Zarian signal. Direct line. Someone out there knows you're alive. Her eyes narrowed. Did you respond? No, just saw it. But it's not military. It's personal. Look. He brought the small device to her. She read the signal pattern carefully. Then her eyes widened. It's him, she said. Who? My brother, she said slowly. Commander Virak. Elias stepped back. He's the one who gave the order against the civilians, isn't he? Thalia nodded. And the one who ordered my ship destroyed when I refused. But why reach out now? She clenched her fists. He wants to finish what he started. Elias looked at her for a long moment. What if he wants to talk? No, she said. Zarians don't talk. They test loyalty. And when you fail, They remove you. Elias frowned. Then it's a trap? Maybe. Or maybe he's trying to find out where I am so the fleet can follow. Elias took a deep breath. Do you want to respond? Her jaw tightened. I need to. They set up the encrypted call on a secure line. No coordinates shared. Thalia stood before the screen, her face steady, her voice calm. The screen came, alive. A Zarian male filled the frame, tall, armored, his eyes cold as ice. His long hair was tied in soldier's braids, his shoulders marked with symbols of command. Thalia, he said, voice sharp. I expected your signal days ago. I didn't plan to answer, she replied. You've shamed our name, Virak said. You turned your back on your oath. I saved lives. You disobeyed. She didn't flinch. I chose honor. Over orders. That used to mean something. Virak leaned closer. You're traveling with a human now, a fugitive. Do you even know what you've become? I'm becoming someone I can live with, she said quietly. Virak's voice lowered. Then you leave me no choice. They've given me full authority. I will find you, sister, and when I do, you will kneel or fall. The screen went dark. Thalia stood still. Then she slowly sat down, breathing hard. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. You okay? He won't stop, she said. He'll chase us through every system. Elias nodded. Then we stop running. She looked at him, confused. What do you mean? We find a way to make sure they stop hunting. You for good. Her eyes narrowed. That means fighting. Maybe not just fighting, Elias said. Maybe exposing the truth. She sat back. You want to broadcast what happened? If the galaxy hears that a Zarian commander tried to wipe out unarmed civilians, and you refused, maybe people will start asking questions. Maybe even some Zarians. Thalia shook her head. They'll say I'm lying. But you're not. And we have your ship's black box. It probably recorded the command. Order. She looked at him, hope flickering behind her eyes. You kept the black box? He smiled. I'm a salvager, remember? I never throw away anything useful. They began work that same night. Elias carefully repaired the damaged black box, pulling out the memory data while Thalia translated parts of it into human-readable format. Inside was the voice of her brother, cold and clear, giving the order to destroy innocent lives. Elias leaned forward. This could change everything. Thalia's voice trembled a little. Are you sure this is worth it? This will mark you, Elias. The Zarians will see it as betrayal. I already made my choice the moment I opened your armor, he said. I'm not going back either. Together, they uploaded the audio clip to a secured human resistance channel, one that sent information to thousands of systems. The message went live within hours. It was simple, real, and powerful. By the next morning, Elias woke to dozens of return pings. Some were anonymous, some were clear. A few praised Thalia's courage, a few offered support, and some warned that the Zarians were already reacting, angrily. She stood beside him, staring at the screen. The truth is out. And now, Elias said quietly, they'll try to silence it. A red ping blinked. A cruiser had entered the system. Her brother had arrived. They both stared at the screen in silence. Then Elias stood. You said you weren't Zarian anymore, that you didn't belong anywhere. She nodded. Well, he said with a brave smile, maybe this ship is your home now, and I protect what's mine. Thalia looked at him, her eyes softening. Then let's face them together. The engines roared, and the Warden's wing turned toward the rising storm. The Warden's wing shook as the Zarian cruiser dropped from warp and took position in orbit. Inside the cockpit, Elias tightened his grip on the controls. Thalia stood beside him, armored once again, but this time not to hide. Her face was calm, but her eyes held a storm. He's not here to talk, Elias said, glancing at the screen. His ship's weapons are charged. I know, Thalia replied. This ends today. She turned to the side panel and began typing. I'm sending one final message to his command. I'll make it clear. If he fires on us, it's a rogue act. The galaxy already saw the truth. If he attacks, now they'll know he's afraid of more. Elias nodded. And what if he doesn't care about consequences? Then we survive him. She hit send, and the message went out. The Zarian cruiser responded in seconds. A call. Thalia accepted. The screen filled with the face of Commander Virek. He was calm. Too calm. You've caused great shame to our name, he said coldly. I've shown the galaxy your shame, Thalia replied. You spread lies, Virek said. No one will believe the word of a traitor. They already do. Even Zarians are questioning what they saw. He didn't react. Come back now and I'll erase your crimes. You'll be punished quietly. It's your last offer. Thalia didn't answer right away. Her hand tightened near the console. Then, she said simply, no. Virek's eyes darkened. Then burn with the human. The screen went black. Elias's hands flew across the controls. Shields up. Brace for impact. Outside, the cruiser began charging its main cannon. Seconds later, a massive energy beam shot toward the warden's wing. The ship shook violently, sparks flying from the ceiling. Elias held steady. Shields at 30%, he shouted. We can't keep taking hits like that, Thalia said. We have to move. Elias kicked the engines into high gear, zigzagging through nearby asteroid debris to throw off targeting. The cruiser followed slowly, confident in its power. We don't have weapons strong enough to destroy that thing, Elias said. Not in a head-on fight. Thalia stared at the tactical map. Maybe not, but we can blind it. She pointed to a broken mining satellite floating nearby. There. Old reactor core. If we overload it just right. Elias understood immediately. It'll release a burst strong enough to mess with their sensors. He didn't hesitate. Together they raced toward the satellite. Elias flew close while Thalia used the remote cable to connect to the core. She worked fast, hands steady even as the enemy closed in. A warning pinged. They've locked on again, Elias said. 10 seconds until the next shot. Almost there, Thalia said. Another ping. 5 seconds. Thalia slammed her hand on the last command. Done. Get us out. Elias hit the thrusters, pulling away just as the satellite core exploded in a white-blue flash. For several seconds, the Zarian cruiser systems went dark. Now was their only chance. Elias flipped the ship around and launched 2 EMP torpedoes. One, aimed at the cruiser's communication array, the other at its engines. Both hit. The massive ship stalled in space, drifting. Inside the warden's wing, silence returned. Thalia let out a slow breath. We did it. Elias leaned back in his seat. He won't follow us for a while. No, Thalia said, but others will. I've started something that won't stop. He looked at her. What are you going to do? She looked out the window, watching the stars slowly move again. I'm going to keep telling the truth, she said. I'm going to help those who live in fear of power. I can't undo what I've done in the past, but I can choose what I become next. Elias nodded. Wherever you go, I'll follow. She turned to him. Why? Because the day I removed your armor, I saw who you truly were. And every day since, I've seen you become more. Her voice was soft. Even now, when I'm hunted? Especially now, he said. You're not running anymore, you're standing. Thalia smiled. Then let's stand together. Weeks later, whispers spread across colonies and outposts. A former Zarian soldier is helping refugees escape occupied zones. A human is with her, guiding the way. Together, they challenge the silence. They became a symbol, not of war, but of change. Thalia no longer needed her armor to breathe. She had found something stronger than metal. She had found purpose. And she was not alone.